This is a Blender character brought into Bevy. Oh, does she have something to say? Oh no, god damn it. So you've been hard at work making your own Blender model, and you finally got it done.
What? We're flying to Philadelphia! Oh, hell no!
Or you're like most people, and you say fuck that. So you download from online to dive right into Bevy.
Concomb punch!
Now what is Bevy? Bevy's a game engine completely written in Rust. Our goal here is to get a Blender model into a playable character in Bevy. First we want to get a Blender model rendered in Bevy. Next we want to figure out how to get animations played. Then we want to show the guess and check approach to play the right animation. And then finally we'll map keyboard controls so that our character can walk with the right animations. And as you follow along, we'll also show you some tips on how to integrate your own character into Bevy. Now reading Bevy's documentation is like hitting a wall. It's dense and it's hard to understand if you had no previous context. Then I remembered Bevy's advice. Examples are the best way to learn its features and how to use them. Here's the example that I followed, now let's show you how to implement it.
Let's get down to business.
So to get started, you need to export your Blender model at the bottom part, and then you need to place your file under this exact file path. Let's get started. So this first code block is how we actually spawn in our character from Bevy. We use 3 different things to put in the parameters. Commands is what spawns, we use to spawn it in. Asset server is what we use to load our Blender's assets such as animations and the actual model itself. And the graph stores the animations. We're going to store graph on our animations, which is a component of our entity once we spawn it in. So once we get to this let part where it says let and then node indices, graph is going to be the list of animations, and then we're going to access them using the node indices. So this example is very important for this part of the code because if you try to access more animations than there actually is, then you will actually crash the program. So my best recommendation is to start with 0 and start incrementing up until you figure out how many animations you actually have. Note that when Bevy loads them in, it's out of order. So once we get over to actually binding them to which control, it's kind of a guess and check, and we'll get to that soon. Once we get our graph built up, we store this under animations, and we insert the node indices and the graph handle itself. And then when we add the animation player, that's what's actually connecting the entity itself to the animations that we just inserted globally through command insert resource animations. Damn, it's a lot so far. In this second code segment, this is what actually loads and plays our first animation. So when we look at this, we can see that we have our animations resource. This is so we can access it. And animation player, which is also very important. So when we first start our program, it gets the animations transitions. This is what we use to manage our animations once we actually start playing through different ones. And once we move down to commands, this is what actually inserts the animation graph to our actual entity, so we can switch between them. Transitions is what starts playing them. So we go from animations, and then we're using the second index. So for you, whenever you're trying to go through the first idle, whatever your idle animation is, you kind of just have to guess and keep replacing that from like 0, 1, 2, 3 until you find the right one for your idle animation. And that's it for this code segment. So now we're at the code segment that actually controls our animations. This is what in our example, we're going to be controlling the the walking animation when they walk. So to do that, we first get the player and then the transitions at the top, and we check if any of the keys are being pressed. So when we use press, this is when between when you first click it and you lift off. So when you hold the key, it's always correct. And then we check if the animation's playing, because you don't want the animation to play over and over again. It would actually look like it's kind of freaking out as it's playing the same thing over and over. And just quick check, make sure it only plays once. Now we're at the bottom half of animation control. So as you can see right here, we added a key where you can enter and it plays a special animation. In our example you saw at the beginning, it actually makes me jump and wave. And you see how it says just pressed? So this, you click it once and it keeps playing the animation over and over. And then we have a second one that checks if they're idle. If the character is idle after just releasing, because that's what happens when you release the key, then it plays the animation of being idle. Note you see the 2 and the 1. These are just randomly like guess and check until we found the right animation. And make sure that you don't go over your limit, as it will also crash the program if it tries to access an element that it doesn't own. Now we're actually at the last second. So this is something pretty typical if you've done any movement controls in Bevy. So there's nothing much to add to here, other than this is what handles the movement controls in our actual player. And thanks for watching. If you got this far, I really appreciate it. Have a good day.